off-schedule things that the Chiefs do. How can you plan for that? How is your defensive approach when they do so much like that?
Yeah, we know it's a challenge. Everybody knows, Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks to play, and his ability to keep plays alive by being on the move, it's very difficult to defend. So we have to. Everybody has to be sound. Everybody has to be where they are supposed to be in coverage, in their rush lanes. Everybody has to just be accountable. Everybody has to do their job and play together. Right? It's not going to be a one-man show of going to get Mahomes. It's going to be everybody with the rush and coverage being tied together. That's how we'll collectively be able to stop these guys.
Kyle compared him to John Elway, and Jimmy Ward compared him to Aaron Rodgers. Does he remind you of anybody that you played against?
Nah, he's a man in his own category. I think just with the different arm angles and the different ways that he's able to, throw the ball. I haven't seen anybody like that. Never played against anyone like it, but he can make any throw on the field no matter where he is. If he's moving to his left, moving to his right, it really doesn't matter. Sometimes you want to, force guys one way or the other. But this guy here, it really doesn't matter. He can sidearm it. He can throw wherever he wants to. So he definitely is a different beast all of itself, and it's a tough out for everyone.
Without Tyreek, they still managed to have a similar scoring average per game.
Yeah.
And without that, that as Kyle called it, or how he referred to it, like fastest guy on the planet speed. How have they been able to do that?
Yeah, it's still right. That offense is still able to generate just because of the details and what they do in their offensive scheme. I think everybody is very well coached. They're detailed in their approach, and guys find a way to get open. Right? It definitely is different with Tyreek, not seeing him out there with that speed, but you still have 17, 11. These guys still have speed to stretch the field. So just because they don't have Tyreek, we still have problems. They are a tough matchup all across the board with their receivers, the tight end position, the running back. Like each skill position presents a different challenge. So these guys it's difficult to defend, and we're up for the challenge though.
What do you guys have to do when you just defend them in the red zone? It seems like their red zone package is as varied as any team in the league. So how do you go about preparing your squad for that?
Yeah, they have a lot of different looks. They mix it up very well in the red zone, a lot of different motion shifts. Right? They get very creative in the red zone, and that's where you see them thrive, and they're able to score points just because of the creative things they're able to do to kind of confuse defenses and get guys wide open. So, everybody, we have to have eyes on Kelsey. I think he's one of the most targeted guys in the red zone, and he finds a way to come down with a lot of touchdowns. Right, really good connection there with Mahomes. So guys just have to be very dialed in and very locked in with their eyes, being exactly where they're supposed to be, making sure they're looking at the proper thing and not getting tripped up by all the window dressing that they see.
How difficult is it to prepare for and coach against Andy Reid in particular?
It's different because they're sound. That's one thing Andy has always been. He's always been, a master of the details, the finest details. I know Andy is covering those things. So that's what makes them stand out amongst other teams. Everything, every position, every step of the route, the angle with the footwork, or how they're running their routes with the precision of the running game, the targeting of everything is going to be done with details. That's one thing I always remember. Right, being with Coach Reid for 1 year, he was all about the details and the precision of every single rep.
Did you ever sit in any offensive meetings?
No, I never sat in the offensive meeting, but he would come over and he would coach defense too. Like as a head coach, he was very smart coach. He knows it all. So he even coached us as defensive players of how tight ends are trying to attack your leverage. What are they trying to do to get your pad level up? Like I remember him one day just coming over, just coaching us up, myself and Michael Kendricks, just on right. This is what a tight end is trying to do to you. So this is how you defend it. So he's just very well thought out from that prospect as a head coach, for him to take the time to come over and coach defense, and he has the offense down pat, but he's just all around. He knows it all. Very respected, great coach in this league.
When you think of the Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs, is there what specific memory or play might pop to mind to you?
A lot of plays popping in mind. It's just a lot of plays, just disappointing, right? Watching that game again, it's just disappointing from a lot of different plays that we've seen. Like being in the position we were in, right? It's difficult to go back and watch it. But it's past us now. It happened. Like we have to move forward, and we're here now and seeing where this team, can build and move forward. But it was, it's kind of one hand it's cool to go back and watch it and see, how close we were in that moment. And it also, provides a burst like, man, like owning all of the little details of what your job and what you have to do and being on it, right, for 4 quarters, just go back and seeing like that's what it takes to win games, right? We have to be locked in for complete 4 quarters. And that's what it reminded me of going back and watching it.
Did you watch it before this week?
No, yes. That was been a couple years ago, so I haven't played the Chiefs since then. So it's my first time watching it since last time.
Already being down Mosley, and should Looney not be able to go on Sunday, just how much confidence do you have in the younger guys to be able to slip in there?
Whoever's out there, they have to play, right? Of course, we would love to have our guys out there, love to have our starters, but that's what the league is, right? It's always about adjusting. It's never quite how you want it with injuries, and that's all across the league. It's not our team. It's all teams deal with those things. So you have to make the best of what you have. And with that, it's a great opportunity for backup guys, right? They have to see it as, man, this is my opportunity to go shine. And are they ready for that challenge? Are they going to step up to the plate and make plays? You really don't know until young guys are thrust into that moment. And that's where you see some guys rise up and play big, and they just have to go out and play, and you see where they are. It's going to be some growing pains with the young guys out there, but hopefully we can weather that, and those guys can make some big plays for us.
With Jimmy Ward in the club that he's got on his hand, obviously it's not your decision for him to be cleared, but if he does get cleared, do you have to take into account that in terms of how you use him or anything like that?
With the club, I just trust Jimmy that whatever he's able to do, whatever he's comfortable with handling, like I trust Jimmy. Jimmy's played a lot of ball, and he feels comfortable to go out with that club, and whatever he's able to do and he's comfortable, like we can roll with it, right? I know the type of playmaker that Jimmy is, right? With a club, without a club, I know the presence that he brings, the playmaking ability that he brings to our defense. So having him out there is just going to be, if we can have him out there, that'll be a huge lift for us defensively.
The 2012 49ers are going to be here this weekend for the game. When you were an Eagle, you played the Niners, and that game you played 83 snaps.
Whew.
Do you remember that game at all, playing the Harbaugh Niners?
I think that was my first time. I think that was the first. Was this the first year of the stadium being open? Yeah, I think Frank Gore was playing. So I remember a few plays from that game. A few tough tackles versus Frank Gore. One thing I remember from that game is the Niners just very tough team, tough physical team, hard-nosed team. That's one thing I do remember, from that game. And it's one thing that just the organization that it's always been about, just a toughness, and it's also about championships, right? And that's what this organization is about. And I'm just happy to be a part of this organization and the rich history that they have, right? And it's fun. Just you remind me, just being able to play here in this stadium and now coach here. It's special how everything just comes back, full circle.
That's good.
All right, thank you.
Hello.
How did Mike look out there today?
Mike was out there doing, he looked normal to me. Everything looked normal.
How's Trent Williams looking?
Like Trent Williams, which is a good thing. Sorry, they both look good and I don't want to be short. They both look good. They're doing a good job. They're doing what they've always done. They look pretty good.
The challenge that your interior guys have with Chris Jones.
Yeah, it seems like week after week, and I think that's the way it is. There's always going to be, all of their players are really good players. I mean, don't look past Frank Clark, don't look past the other guys, but, they all do a good job. Chris Jones is another great challenge. We had last week 97 from Atlanta. Before that, we had the guy from the Rams, Aaron Donald. Every week there's going to be somebody that's going to be a challenge for the interior guys. So we have to work really, really hard at all the details and the things we need to do within each protection to be able to protect the quarterback and do a good job for him. So he's a load, man. He's a big, strong, physical guy that when he wants to can be an absolute game wrecker.
Is there a silver lining in that you've had game plans where you zeroed in on one guy in the interior so that these young guys won't, they know what to do.
Correct, exactly. There has been a plan that when you have a great edge rusher, a great inside player, there's always a thought in how you tweak things to just kind of help make sure that guy isn't. You try to, like I've said before, you're just trying to make sure that it doesn't get out of control, and you can take care of them a little bit better than say if you didn't make any adjustments at all.
Chris, is your line still, the starting unit, is it still kind of work in progress, or do you feel like you have the 5 guys there? Just thinking about Brunskill and Brendel. Is there an opportunity there for Brunskill to take that starting job, or how do you view it at this point?
Right now, I think our starting 5 guys, if Mike's back in the lineup and Trent's back in the lineup, I think they're doing pretty well. I don't think anybody can rest. We still have some good, talented players in behind them when Colton comes back, and then when you do have Jalen there, and obviously Dan does a really good job. They're all there and ready to go. And if at any time a guy starts to slip up or struggle a little bit, there's always the opportunity. We don't have many guys, but probably the left tackle. I think Aaron Banks is starting to put himself in that position where he's got a position, as has Mike. But I think the other guys have to keep. I don't want to say look over their shoulder, but you got to stay on point, because there are other players that can play, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're having struggles, or maybe you're banged up and hurt, and we need to play another guy a little bit more, or whatever it is, that at least we have other guys that can get in there and play.
And would you say Brendel's doing well enough to hold
All
on?
the guys right now all 5 that are in there as starters are starters because they're doing well enough to be the starters. We're not gifting a position right now to anybody, but definitely they need to keep grinding and keep working.
Like 3 games with considerable amount of rushing yards, and then 3 games that were like less than 100. And sometimes that's circumstance because of how many plays you get to run. But where do you see the evolution of the running game at this point? What do you need to do better, you think?
I think the games I think it's kind of a reflection of the consistency of how we play. It really is. I think the one under 100 was the Rams game, which is kind of the way the game went, the drives. If I remember correctly, that was a little bit different than the other 2 where we were low. It's just consistency in our play. It's kind of probably why we're 3-3. It's just not consistent week in and week out. And I can speak from the offensive line perspective. We're not executing consistently at a high enough level to run the ball enough times. And then, we've had games where we haven't converted on third down. There's a lot of other reasons, but at the end of the day, we've got to do a better job. The tight ends, the fullback, the offensive line, everybody as a unit pulling together to make sure that we have more consistency in the running game.
How do you account for, it seems like Justin Reid's maybe the fastest safety in the NFL. How do you account for, especially outside zones, somebody that can cut down angles really quick?
Well, whatever the responsibility is of the given play, if the receiver's responsible for them, however we account for that player, we have to put our guys in position they can get them blocked. So whatever that entails, splits, play calls, different things like that. Obviously, he's a talented player and will make plays no matter what you do. And so it's trying to understand every part of the defense and where the challenges lie and how we can put ourselves in a position to best block the guys we need to block.
Small sample size, but through 6 games, the run game has been much more effective from the shotgun than from under center. I don't know if you've seen those splits, but what do you think has gone into that so far?
Well, yeah, I do think it's just a matter of, it's who knows if it's the play call versus the defense. It could be a lot of different things. It could be the situations that they're called in. You think back to one huge run in the Chicago game at the end of the half. It was a shotgun run to Deebo that went for 50 or 60. That alone could take the numbers and skew them slightly. But I think it's all, we just evaluate each play in and of itself. And obviously there are trends, and if we see trends that maybe, hey, shotgun's this, why is it? And then maybe you build on that or not. You just have to, we're always looking at it, believe me, every single week, all those things. But I don't think there's anything you can put your finger on and say, this is why it's better in shotgun, or this is why it's not under center.
We saw Dan Brunskill back in a tackle for the first time since 2019. What's been behind that thought process over the past several years to have him at guard and not really experiment anymore with him at tackle?
Well, I think that when we moved him, when he came here in 2019, if I remember correctly, both Joe got hurt in the Cincinnati game. McGlinchey got hurt a little bit after that. So we had School and Brunskill were basically our backup tackles at that point, if I remember correctly. My memory's is fading. But I think those two guys, and so when we had them both out, they were the next man up. Dan has had tackle and guard ability. Center was a reach for him. When we put him in at center, that's been a stretch for him. And he developed, Dan can play every position if you give him enough time to figure it out. But his body type, his athleticism is more suited to guard than to tackle. So right now when you think about it, if tackle 1 is Trent, tackle 2 is Mike, tackle 3 is Colton, tackle 4 is Jalen Moore, tackle 5 is Dan Brunskill, right? So you're talking about our 5th tackle on the roster. Then you get down to, and you start talking about the 6th guy. You're talking about guys that are, Leroy Watson, who's on the practice squad, and guys like that. So basically, we're playing with the guys that, if you were listing up from how we had them ranked, it'd be their 4th and 5th tackle. So Dan was next guy up. You're lucky to have 4. We're lucky to have 5 or 6 guys that can literally slide out and do it. You also have Blake Hance, who's had some substantial time at tackle with Cleveland, and then he played some for us in tackle. He spelled Mike for the first couple plays when Mike came out. And then we went with Dan and Spencer the rest of the game.
Some coaches and players have talked about reviewing the Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs, and it's not a great thing to do. Has it been more clinical in watching that, or do people actually comment like, crap, that play sucks?
No, there's a play or two, like, you get the ball back at the end of the game and you see certain plays, but there's always plays in every game when you look back. Whenever you go back and watch a game of yourself, we'll go back and look at, I think we play the Rams next week, and I think we'll go back and look at the first game. You look at all the games. You go back at that championship game and your stomach sinks when you think about, gosh, here was this opportunity. It happens all the time when you watch yourself against a previous opponent. It doesn't matter what the year, what the game, everything else. Obviously, the Super Bowl is a bigger stage and a pretty big game, but I think that definitely it happens all the time. But most of it now is you get in the grind of these seasons and the hours you spend. There's time for emotion, but there's mostly time for, let's just get the work done. Let's see what we have to do. How are we best going to attack this team? Finding clips of film that can help your guys play a little bit better. Watching how Chris Jones did things against us then, or the things that we can take from that to help us, or just all sorts of things you're trying to pile together to piece something together for your guys to help them play better, help the offense to play better.
In terms of your rookie running backs, is the biggest hurdle for them just learning the scheme?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of it's the scheme, and part of it is just inserting yourself as the best runner. It's not just, well, am I good at the pass protection? Do I understand all the things? And that's a learning curve that can take years for guys to really master and own, which is part of it. But the other part of it is when you watch them in practice, are they hitting the holes? Do they understand the concepts? Do they understand what this play is trying to accomplish? It's more than just run like heck and get yards. There's more to it than that. There's setting up blockers. You can set up blockers to get yourself anything from a 4-yard gain can become a 20-yard gain if you just learn how to press a little bit more, set your receiver up, and then hit the hole. And all those things in college, they really don't apply as much. So there's parts of it that are that, as well as the learning curve. They're being coached really well. The guys are learning as fast as they can. And then, as I've stated in here a number of times, getting opportunities in games are where the real reps occur. And until you're ready, until you get in the game, until you actually are operating in that situation, it's hard to develop and as fast as you might need to.
And inconsistencies, is there anything that you can put your finger on as far as what's causing the inconsistencies? Is it just across the board, small mistakes here and there?
Yep, it's inconsistent, and the inconsistencies. There's a lot of different things. No, there's just a lot. You can put your finger. It's every given play, right? For example, on a certain play, it could be the most basic thing. If Aaron Banks towards the end of the game does one thing a little bit different on a linebacker, the play breaks out the backside, and it might be a 25-yard run. Now all of a sudden you have 100 yards in the game instead of 80 or whatever. I don't even know what the numbers were for the game, right? There's another run in the game where we miss a down block, and if we get the one down block, right? It's as always, when you don't have success, it's usually just a bunch of little things that kind of add up, and then pretty soon the sum of the whole is just not good enough. Some of the parts isn't good enough. And that's kind of what happens when you're not having success. It's one guy here, it's one guy there. It's not this overriding thing of, we're just not good enough. It's just a little bit here and there off. It's the other team playing well. It's us not playing as well, or whatever each play. But each play kind of stands alone.
Maintain faith and confidence that you will get rid of, one little thing each week?
We just keep working. That's the part of the NFL season that I think I love the season. I think the season's the greatest time because you have actual, You get to put your stuff out there on tape, and it's live and it's real. And when we're doing OTAs and we're doing training camp against each other, when it's preseason, it's pretend. Now it's real. It's under the scrutiny, the pressure of the whole world seeing what you're doing on a daily basis, people circling you, pointing you out, and now how are you going to develop in these pressure situations? And that's how you really find out what you're made of and what kind of football player and what kind of football team you have. So I don't worry about it. I actually welcome it, because that's when you have a chance to get better. That's when you actually get to get a guy and say, hey, listen, dude, this is what we need to do to improve. And now we can really work on these things. And if the guy has the ability and the guy has the grit and the grind, he's going to get it done, right? That's part of the process. And then you find out we're 3-3 right now, 11 games left, right? I think they're going to let us play 11 more. So we get 11 more games here. And when we get those games, now we're going to get to see what we're made of. And that's the challenge every year. And every year is different. It doesn't matter if it was, I coached Joe Staley in 2008, 2009, 2015, and I was back here again in 2019. Right? 3 different times, 4 different seasons in my career, and every season was a different challenge, a different set of things that came up with him that put us in a situation where, how to coach that guy. Every guy's the same way. I've coached Trent Williams for so many years, but some practices, it's like, hey, Trent, we're working on this today. This seems to be something that's creeping into your game. Or Spencer Burford, you made great progress here. Let's make sure that doesn't go back. So do I worry? It's the season. It's what happens. And then all of a sudden, these moving parts, you start throwing different guys in there. You're like, okay, now I got a new set of problems or situations to work with. But that's what makes it fun. It's why it's not just going and punching the clock every day and flipping burgers. You're working with people. You're operating with guys that are human beings, that are laid on the line, that are competing at a high level, and you got an opportunity to help them, to build together as a team, to grow as a team, to watch our offense excel and do better every single week. That's the challenge. The hard part is, people, when you're having inconsistencies, well, which one are we? Are we good? Are we bad? What are we? And it's like, no, just keep working, and we'll see what we are at the end. That's what really matters. And every week you get a test to see where you stand, to see where you are, and that's awesome, right? You get 6 days to work as hard as you can. On the 7th day, boom, how'd you do? You lost. Wasn't good enough, man. We got to come back the next week, pick ourselves up, get to freaking work, and let's go see what we can do. So that's what I love about this thing. So no, not at all. And regardless of who it is, it's sometimes even more fun when you have the challenge of, all of a sudden I'm looking on the sideline and Nick Sakel's standing next to me. I'm like, okay, Nick, whoever gets hurt, you're going in, and whatever happens. We'll shuffle the deck and see how it goes, and let's go try and win this game in the fourth quarter. And that's what makes it kind of cool.
How are defenses more prepared against Deebo this year, and what are you seeing from him in terms of his hunger to kind of get moving again in the run game?
Well, I think it's like with when a lot of runs are going, I think that there's more opportunities to insert Deebo when we've had limited opportunities, whether it be we've had some opportunities where we didn't convert on 3rd down. I'm not blaming anything on that. We got to do a better job running the ball in the game. There's other things, this past week there just weren't the opportunities, so all of a sudden there just isn't the ops. Then you get one and it doesn't go. You get another one, it goes. So it's a hit or miss thing with him right now. I don't think it's that they're defending Deebo any differently. We're putting him in very similar situations, and there's opportunities there. Some have been missed by him. There's specific games I can think of. Others have been we haven't executed properly for him.
Thanks, Coach. The 2012 team is coming in. Frank Gore was part of that group. Obviously, one of the best running backs that the Niners have had. What is it about his game that was so special?
I was fortunate enough to be with Frank in 2008 and 2009, and I was there a game against Seattle in Candlestick where Frank had 2 75 and an 80-yard run, 2 really big runs in that game, which was really cool to watch. Frank had some of the best vision. You'd run power, and Frank was a great power runner, and there might be literally the width of this podium of a hole, and Frank had the patience to wait on that thing, and then all of a sudden he'd press it and it would open and he'd hit it. Most guys would say that's not a hole. Frank could see it and be able to hit that hole and go. Frank's vision, and then Frank was just tenacious about running the football. He was not going to be denied. He had great vision, he had great stamina, he had great power, his will to win and be successful. Frank was just awesome. So it's all the things combined in here. Plus, I just thought it was a tremendous vision. The vision thing is what I saw and what I see in every really good back.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, what's going on, guys?
Thinking back, do you do to the Super Bowl?
A little bit. You definitely watch it. I mean, that is the last time we played these guys, in a real game, and so I think there is some merit to it. But it was a pretty long time ago too. So you gotta be careful with that.
When you watch, I guess this week, if you're watching that film and looking at schematics, how do you remove the emotion out of it while you're watching it?
I don't know. I think you just kind of you have to. I think is a big part of it. Once you're watching the film, though, I mean, the emotions hit right away. But once you kind of get into it and you're kind of thinking about the game plan, the emotions kind of just fade away a little bit. So there's obviously deep down it's still there, but you just got to move on.
Did you rewatch it at all before this week, after the game?
The Super Bowl? Yeah. I mean, way back. Yeah, way back when. Yeah. It was a long time ago since the last time I seen it, but yeah, I had to rewatch it this week. It's always tough, but it was good for us.
Does it motivate you at all rewatching it?
It's a different type of motivation. I think that motivation comes and goes. Those feelings come and go, and this season's this season now, so it's just a little different.
I'm sorry. Just one more Super Bowl question. Does the pain of that game, has that lessened over time?
Yeah, definitely. I think everything heals with time. You still have that feeling inside, but it's just different.
There's a lot of injuries, but the offense still has lots of weapons. And you've been in the offense for 5-6 years. You're making nice throws down the field, and yet the offense really isn't clicking. How do you explain that?
I think you could go a number of different directions with that, but I don't know. I think it starts with us as players. We just got to execute better. It sounds pretty cliche, but I mean, there were some easy plays we left out there on Sunday that we should have made, we've made in the past, and it's just one of those things, We just got to be on the same page, do the little things in practice that transfer over to the game. I think that plays a big part of it.
Is there any more pressure on the offense with all the defensive injuries?
I think there's a responsibility. I don't know about pressure, but just a responsibility that whenever, and that's what's made us so good in the past year. Whenever one part of the team goes down, the other part step up. Special teams, offense, defense, whatever it is, and we've done that a lot in the past, and we got to keep doing that, and it'll be on us, to do that.
Piggybacking off that, it seems like you guys have been playing complementary offense for years. Do you feel now that it's time to sort of take the lead?
I mean, you don't want to get too far away from complementary football. That's winning football, and that's won us a lot of games here. So I think we have to be careful with that, but. I mean, there's a time and place. Like this past Sunday, we needed to step up as an offense, put more points on the board. We even spotted them 7 points on the one play. So, I mean, there's a lot of just little mistakes like that we need to fix.
It's like considering the caliber of the offense of the opposition, I know you can't really worry about that. You don't play against them, but to be averaging, I think you guys are averaging 20.3 points a game, and it's one of the lowest it's been here in a long time. And it's only a 6-game sample. I get that. But do you see the pieces coming together? Every week you've talked about being on the same page. Is it getting closer?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you see it at practice, too. I mean, there's just certain plays where there's a trust factor. I think that plays a big part in any offense. Just between the quarterback and the skill guys, there's a trust factor that it's not just given either. You got to earn that stuff. You got to earn it in here, in the locker room, out on the field, away from the facility, whatever you do. But, yeah, I think there's a trust factor that we're moving in the right direction. We just need to make that happen quicker rather than later.
It's National Tight Ends Day. What have you
Is
seen
it?
George
There we go.
on Sunday facing Kelsey? Have you seen George different? And we're waiting for that big George game this season. Could that happen?
George is always different, man, in the best way, too. George is always amped up at practice, ready to roll. He's the energy guy for us. He showed that on Sunday. He made some plays where you just get the ball in his hands and he's going to run some people over and the whole sideline's going to feel it. So we try to get him the ball a little bit on Sunday, especially because it's National Tight Ends Day, obviously. But, whatever we can to get him going.
The touchdown pass to Ayuk looked like a really good route. And then you had the deep throw to Ayuk. That was a nice throw. And he was wide open, but it didn't count. How good is he playing right now?
Real well. There's still a little ways to go for him, for all of us. But he's been showing some stuff. That's kind of what I was talking about, the trust factor. Just when you put it on film in practice and then you do it in the game too, as a quarterback, that's the ultimate trust I could have in you. And that route you're talking about on the touchdown, he He routed the dude, yeah, and that's a good corner too. 24 is a good player, and BA just put him on skates and exploded out of it. But yeah, I think there's a trust factor that he's earned every day, and it's not just from one day of being really good or something like that. It's every day putting in the work, being consistent and reliable, and good things happen.
I remember a few years ago, you and Emmanuel Sanders sort of like had that trust factor right away. Is that just because he was a vet and had been through some of the same things as you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. He came in, he kind of knew the offense from his Denver days, so there was, picked it up real quick, and he was just a natural route runner. Where BA is different. He's long, lanky. He's not built like most receivers, and that's a good thing too. I mean, he could do some things that you don't really see every day from normal receivers, but it's just the trust factor. It's coming and it's moving in the right direction. He's on the right track.
Have you had any conversations with Mooney talking about the defense, the Chiefs defense, what he knows?
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, any one-on-ones with him to have some intel on the defense?
Yeah. We were talking. I mean, literally throughout this whole week, just little simple things, coverage talk, whatever. But yeah, he's been awesome with that. He's a really smart dude.
Jimmy, just one thing. What would you think would be the main difference so far between the Panthers and the Rams game against the Falcons game?
The biggest difference? I think each week in this season, I mean, every week's going to be different. Your opponent's different. How your team is, what you're dealing with as a team is going to be different. But I think just, I don't know, it's hard to point to one thing specifically on that. It's over 3 weeks. I mean, everything's going to change throughout the offense, defense, game plan. So, yeah, just about everything.
When the schedule comes out, it's easy to look to this game, 49ers and Chiefs. Do you do the same thing? Do you look at, either before the season or even this week, go, wow, this is really going to be a test and kind of show us what kind of team we have?
Yeah, I think every week is, I mean, I know that sounds cliche, but every week is hard in this league, man. It's every opponent you play is going to be difficult. The coaches are good in this league. They're going to scheme you up and make you, do things that you're not comfortable with doing or try to make you, have to attack them in different ways. Yeah, I think every week's difficult in this league. You just got to come ready, and that's the consistency and reliability that you have to have as a player. And it ain't easy, but that's why not everyone does it. All right. Thanks, guys.